Good morning. Here's the disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing in this video is financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial product. All content is for informational purposes only based on personal opinions and experiences. Trading futures and other financial products, financial instruments involve substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for every investor. You can lose more than your initial investment, so always do your own research and consult with a licensed financial professional. Okay. There's news. Or there's disclaimer. Now we've got news. So biggest news event today is the NFP. Great, my Epic Pen's already not working. I just have to restart it. But yeah, biggest news event is NFP today, which is at 8:30 before the bell. So depending on how it goes, like on days like today, sometimes we are in a very different position than you are when you are doing your prep. But usually if you have the key ranges and the key areas, like sort of how I do it, or I try to do it, it's usually okay because those areas don't really change. And if you're still within the range, unless it blows into a whole nother area, you're usually fine. But that's worth noting. So yeah, NFP at 8:30, and there's factory orders month over month at 10, which I don't think would be that important. So yeah, like we'll watch the 10 a.m. and we probably will. We won't trade 10 minutes before unless we're in like a runner situation. But NFP is the big news event for today. So yeah, going through the pre-market sheet quickly now. So on the full session on the ETH profile, you have broken one time framing higher. If I just pull this up, this is just daily candles with it's the full session. It's the ETH session. You can see we broke above yesterday's high in this overnight session. So we ended one time framing on the daily, on the ETH session, but it is still intact on the RTH session. So that's worth noting, because people who are RTH traders may not even look at the ETH stuff, like I do, but some people may not, so it may not be significant to them. Yeah, still no one-time framing on the weekly. I said we're opening in a balanced condition, but like I said, with NFP, we may not. We had, the gap lower yesterday. That ended up being quite small. I had no trades yesterday, by the way, which is why I didn't do the end of day video, but we opened in a gap lower. This green triangle here is the open, and we closed it right off the open pretty much, and that was that. So gap closed, swing high I won't talk about again. One time framing I went through, I said you have a decent excess on both sides, but if you look at the volume portion on the left portion of the profile, the high is not a great high. Like that's not a great excess on the volume profile. Like it looks nice, but news popped us up here into the close, and then you had the closing volume that was all in here. So the low was really good. I would say this is like almost a picture perfect low. But the high is there, but it's not necessarily strong, I would say. Value area range expanding still. We did extend yesterday's range, or we opened out of yesterday's range, so that's what that was. We had normal variation day type yesterday. As for key levels above us, we've got settle, yesterday's high, overnight high, and then prior high, all in succession pretty much. And this prior high, anything above here, there's like maybe a 8-tick gap or a 10-tick gap that didn't fully get filled in yesterday. So that's worth noting as well. And then below us, we've got overnight low. We've got yesterday's low. We've got yesterday's low, and we've got we're right at it right now, but we've got yesterday's VPOC and POC here. So this could be an important test potentially. And then, like I said, anything really below is just zone to zone. Like maybe this overnight low is important because it never got checked and it was important yesterday, but it may not be. So we'll see. So yeah, so that's pretty much the full pre-market sheet. So if we go to the TPO, so like I said yesterday, you opened in this gap and you closed the gap and you pretty consistently pushed higher. You did have one really deep pullback that almost touched the open, but like I said, into the end of day, some news came out. I think it was Trump that pushed this thing higher, and we settled up here and extended the developing high at the time. So I would say for me, I'm still leading short-ish. Because we have preserved the RTH1 time framing, and so people are going to be looking at that. But if you also look at the price action from the overnight, so initially we looked maybe a bit more bullish. You came down, you checked below settle, you couldn't really do anything, and then you impulsed higher. You made the high, you extended the developing high, but then you see the big bids up here that couldn't get anything going, and then from there we just pretty much failed, right? So this overnight high will be important on a test, but if we get it, but for now it's looking like this was rejected. This 5988 area was rejected. Came down, you got back below full session VWAP, which is the pink line, and then you had a nice break below settle. You had a nice break below settle and this clear pullback that tested, held settle, and extended the range lower. So the overnight price action, I would say, is more bearish for sure. More bearish for sure. But this is the POC of yesterday. So we're only right in the value area of yesterday. It's not like we have been this week, are in a gap lower where it actually extended the range lower. So that's worth noting, but yeah, you got the test of settle. So if we are overly bearish today, or aggressively bearish today, I should say, I think we don't get the test of settle. That would be the most bearish scenario, because you tested settle in the overnight. That test was good enough, and so maybe you get a shallow pullback, but you just continue moving lower. That would be the most bearish. Maybe you get a nice break and pullback of the POC and VPOC, like I said. If that test of settle wasn't good enough, but we're still bearish, then we could see a pullback all the way back up to settle. Come up, touch settle, and then come down. We obviously know the settle stat exists, right? It's like whatever, 70% that it gets touched in the RTH session or something like that. So you could pull back, touch it, but then continue to get the resistance and continue moving lower again. Those would probably be the two main bearish scenarios that I have, but worth noting as well, right here as well, is the 5-day VPOC. I don't have it on this chart, but you can see it right here, 58.51. So yeah, right there is 5-day VPOC, and so if we hold settle but we can't really extend past this area, we could turn sideways. The one thing I will say about the 5-day VPOC is that, well, it could, in today's case, not be that significant because, this whole week, 1, 2, 3, 4, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday will start eventually. This is just an RTH profile. But this whole week, you've had pretty much no overlap. And so if it's taking Thursday to Thursday, there's basically been no overlap Thursday. This was pretty much the only day we had the overlap, which was yesterday. Where we filled in volume in areas we had already traded. And so because of that, maybe it's not as valuable as it may seem as the 5-day VPOC, right? But it's still worth paying attention to in my eyes, because like I said, if you come down here and you get to the POC and VPOC of yesterday, and you start just trading sideways and you're not really respecting, then that's probably what that indicates. That's 5-day VPOC, that's yesterday's value, or just, backing and filling, filling in more down here. But if you get the test, pullback, hold, continuation, then that's good, right? So it's not that it's not tradable, but you just have to be aware for it to potentially get very choppy in that area. And so if you want to avoid it in any regard, then you can. Like, that's maybe what I'll do. Usually for me, if I see a good setup, I'll still take it. But if it's like, a lower quality setup, like a C grading, if you gave the setup on the look a C, then I'll usually just avoid it. And yeah, like again, these two areas are going to be key for a bullish scenario as well. Settle yesterday's high and our value metrics from yesterday, because it's pretty much the same thing. Like for like settle is pretty much the over under for now. Like this area, this settle to yesterday's high is pretty much the over under for shorts right now. So if you break above back here and you break above and you start trading above and you're holding, yeah, likely the sell move is done for now. Maybe all you wanted to do was break yesterday's high in the RTH session and then it gets resistance and continues, but you want to see that happen, right? If we're just trading above and we're making higher highs, then we could continue higher. We've got this high, which is going to be important because there's like it's like 7 ticks here. This is the gap I was referencing. We've got like a 7 tick gap that was partialed, so we may not want to fix that, or we may want to fix that up. And we do have this double TPO high up here as well, but that's pretty far away. So that'd be a very extended target if you got a very bullish day. So that's what I mean. Like, I'm leaning to the short side, but if you get above settle and you're holding and you break yesterday's high and you don't quickly fall back below settle, I'm going to think, okay, the long move is done and we want higher prices. That's how I'm going to be looking at it. So if we quickly just look at the overnight action again in the TPO, or in the 30 minutes, sorry, you can see sort of the same thing. We came up, big buyers up here, couldn't get anything, sort of a rounded top, fail, get below DGPs, break below settle, pull back, hold settle, and you can see these red dots. That's sellers coming in and hitting. They're hitting the bid at settle. So that shows sellers for now are trying to maintain prices below settle. As for overnight VPOC, I don't think it'll be that important. It's pretty much right near yesterday's VPOC, but for scalp trades, maybe we could watch it. But yeah, it's pretty close to yesterday's value metrics. It's basically value area high of yesterday, the overnight, and it may move from now till 9, but we'll see. Like overnight always sort of stays the same. If you get like a clear break in either direction, really, that ideally breaks something, but doesn't have to, because it is more of a scalp trade, then you can take the pullback for the continuation if the overnight value metric looks like, or gives you, is holding, right? Gives you a good price action setup that tells you it's holding. But yeah, really, like, settle to yesterday's high. That's going to be key. Settle to yesterday's high is going to be key. Overnight high could be key as well. Like I said before, if you want to break, maybe this is a good way of putting it. If you want to break one time framing lower, then you have to break yesterday's high. So if you break yesterday's high and you don't come back down and you actually continue and break overnight high, then yeah, long move. That's another way of showing you that the short move is probably done and longs are, the ones in control right now. But yeah, so overnight high, this range settled to yesterday's high, and then yesterday's value metrics, which I guess for now line up with overnight low. Those are the 3 key areas I think I'll be watching today. Like obviously there is other stuff, but those are the three main ones. I'll also mention, see these lines here, these purple dotted lines. I'm highlighting them in green. That's the IB range. So that's the initial balance range, which is just the range of the first hour of the RTH session. So 9 to 10 Eastern. If we open within prior IB, so if we open within this range, I have some stats that tell me, well, I haven't updated them in a while, but tells me there's roughly an 85% chance, or there's an 85% probability that we break either one, so either the high or the low, within the first hour of the RTH session. So between 9 to 10, if we open in prior IB, there's an 85% chance, or there's an 85% historical probability that we will break one, just one. So we'll see if we get that information. We haven't gotten one of those opens in a while because we've been opening in gaps for a while, but we're already at 16 minutes here, so I'm going to pick this up and just start the drawing here. More than a woman. Hey, 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 hey. Okay, that's probably good. Like I said, yesterday's low, and then we've got overnight high and prior high. So that's the main stuff. So we've got all the main stuff. So we've got prior high, like I said, which starts the gap. We've got overnight high. Oh, I got a prior high, overnight high, settle to yesterday's high. So I'm going to do the whole thing. Settle to yesterday's high. We've got value metrics just below 58.50, right? They lined up with overnight low. So I'll put this one a bit bigger. And then we've got yesterday's low as well. And then anything below yesterday's low is zone to zone. And anything above yesterday's high, well, we've got the prior highs next, which I mentioned, but there's no room. So we've got... Oh, this is the prior high, that's why. I'm silly. So where's yesterday's high? Oh yeah, I marked it out. Okay. Overnight high. Yesterday's high. Plus settle. Overnight low. Plus VPOC of... Whoops. Yesterday. And yesterday's low. There are some other prior DGPs, like maybe full session mid get some respect, maybe, we'll see. But pretty much here is more extended anyway. After you're below the value metrics, right? So, yeah, and there's 5-day VPOC. So I've pretty much already gone through all the scenarios in detail. Like, I know there's lots of variations, but like I said, for bullish scenario, it's only really a scalp long trade unless you're holding above this range, right? So if we impulse, we get maybe a pullback to overnight VPOC that holds. We extend, we break yesterday's high and settle, and we continue to trade above. We don't reject quickly. Then that leads me to believe continuation for at least overnight high. Overnight high is also a potential resistance, but in this bullish scenario, if we extend, then prior high is next, which goes into that small gap. So our key resistance are going to be overnight highs, all right, but then this range is going to be the key one. So if we break yesterday's high and then we fall back below settle, and then you see something like this, I could see this continuing short for continuation lower. As well, for the main bearish scenario, we don't have any real major supports. It's really just this stuff here. If you can't break this stuff, but we are right there. But again, NFP could change things. So, but the most bearish scenario is come down, you're holding below overnight low, you test ideally overnight low, which lines up right now with VPOC and POC of yesterday. If that holds, then you're pretty much good to go for continuation, unless, um, like I said, we end up not respecting this area at all and we turn sideways because it is 5-day VPOC. So yeah, like I said, aside from yesterday's low, like yesterday's low potentially could be the main support area, but other than that, really, like it really could only other really be overnight low for me. Like yesterday's low or prior day's low, Wednesday's low is already broken, so it's not really important. Um, yeah, so maybe again, like yesterday's DGPs, like maybe prior day's mids. We've got RTH mid here, which lines up, and then we've got full session mid down here at 57.95. So could get a reaction there. I don't usually draw those things though. I just see them as they're happening. So I went a bit over here. So let me just take my screenshot quickly. All right. Here's the last look at the plan. A bit different from what it's been, the past week, but not that different. Got a couple good scenarios. I am leaning to the sell side, like I said, based off the overnight price action, but anything can happen. So yeah, we'll see how the day goes, and if I have any trades, I will be back at the end of day to go through the trades I took. So see you then.